Hey.
Hey Chick Chatters, we are back and we are talking about Match Me Abroad episode 5, and it's called Look Through Your Book.
So we do have to fess up to a lie that we told at the beginning. If you've been sticking with us from the beginning, Harold is not in this episode. I didn't even realize until the end because Danica does do a good job of carrying us through this episode. Pretty well entertained, but we'll get Harold back in episode 6.
Yes, so sorry about that. Anyways, so the episode starts off with fake Chad going on his first date, and her name is Sukanya.
Yes.
And she was picked mainly because she wants someone older. She wants to have kids someday, move to America, is adventurous, but she can't drive and she never has.
Yeah. She's cute though.
Yeah.
She's 24. When we first get to see her, she looks really nervous, and she's sitting in the driver's seat of this 4-wheeler type of vehicle, and she's trying to explain to him, like, they put me in the driver's seat, but I don't know how to drive. And he gets it right away. He's actually kind of sweet in this date, and he's like, okay, we'll switch. And yeah, so
He was trying to teach her though, and she was like, "Oh." He's like, "Yeah, you just watch me, and then you can do it." And she's like, "Oh,
yeah.
okay."
You can tell a lot in the state that she doesn't say everything that's on her mind, probably because there's a language barrier. But yeah, you could tell there was other thoughts going on in her head. But they get themselves all wrapped up in their scarves, their desert 4-wheeler. Is it a 4-wheeler?
It's like an ATV or a 4-wheeler thing. But the funny thing is like he wears his completely over his head. I mean, she wears hers around her head, but like kind of has a little bit of face you can see. He's got it completely over.
like a full ninja, a blue ninja.
So they're driving and they were talking about Morocco and basically the rules of Morocco. He asked her, if I held your hand right now, like, is that illegal?
He didn't ask her, he did it. He has this thing, he grabs her hand, he's like, look, we're breaking the laws. Like, he makes her pretty much break the laws. He does this to every woman he sees. He did it to Nina, now he's doing it to his date here. I would bet money that he probably is holding the hand of that hotel attendant too. Just like, let me just try.
Yeah.
He does. He doesn't even ask for consent. Like, this is illegal here.
He kept like asking her questions, and her answers, he'd be like, well, that's not the Moroccan way. That's the American way. And I'm like, wow, dude. I'm surprised she was having such a good time with him, because every time they cut to her, she's like, he's great. Nina did a great job. Yeah.
I was surprised by that. Yeah, every time in her confessional, she seems like she's happy with him and what he has to offer her, which is good. It seems like they're a good match so far. So she doesn't know this yet, but he is 20 years, a full 20 years older. So that's a lot.
It is a lot. She doesn't care about age, but it really is a big difference. 20 years. I mean, honestly, like 5 years in your 20s is a big difference. So 20 years to somebody in their 40s when you're in your 20s is definitely a big difference. I feel like it's not as big of a difference when you are already like in like 40 to 60 maybe. That's not as big of a difference. Like, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I dated a 30-year-old when I was 20 for a while. We were together for like almost a year, I think. And we didn't break up because of our age, but I mean, there was definitely more effort that had to be made to connect with each other on like movies and music and like things like experiences that we've gone through either in life or just like pop culture related sort of things. So it's kind of cool, like we could share things with each other, but it was also, you had to have more effort. You didn't just like the things each other liked as much. Yeah, to add another 10 years to that, I think would be tough. So Mark likes her, but he's kind of sharing like these same concerns that we're talking about right now too. And he's also concerned about where she's at in life Is she a 24-year-old that's ready to get married and have kids in the really near future, or is she a 24-year-old that wants to do things like American 24-year-olds typically want to do, like he wanted to do when he was 24, like travel and date and have fun. So and then we cut to Susan with Calliope on the way to a date.
Yes, they're gonna meet up with Carlos, who has literally nothing on Susan's list, per her words. But Juan thinks because Susan likes art and travel, that Carlos is a good match for her.
Carlos looks kind of like an explorer when we first see him. He's got like this hat on and kind of these long shirt and pants. So he just looks like a modern explorer. I don't know, but
He does.
Susan thinks he's really handsome, so she's pleased.
The main thing I learned from this scene, though, that made me feel away was learning that this is Calliope's 25th trip. I'm like, I don't think I've been on 25 trips.
I haven't.
What?
And you got to think like Calliope's a dog, right? So even if Calliope is an old dog, Calliope's what? 14, the oldest 15, 16. I mean, I had a small Shih Tzu that lived till she was 18, but you're not going to travel with them and walk them around town at that point. So, I mean, to go on 25 trips in roughly 10 years.
Literally, that dog's going on a trip at least twice a year. At least minimum.
Yeah.
Least. Probably 3.
Yeah. Wow. What a life.
Oh my God. I want to be that dog.
I know. Me too.
Because she also lives in like this nice apartment in New York.
Yeah. So whenever she leaves, like Calliope just like gets to look out the window, like
And be in this nice apartment.
I know.
That's the life.
Perfectly being taken care of. Susan was literally grooming her, getting her all dolled up on the way to this date. Like, oh, you have to look cute. He has to like you. So I don't know. When I die, I'd like to be reincarnated as Susan's dog.
We meet Carlos and they go on this walk where he's kind of being a tour guide in a way, but I guess he's not from there. He just knows how to speak Spanish, so he's just walking around saying a bunch of stuff, I guess.
That's it. That's all he knows about the area. We find more out about that his lack of knowledge later, but yeah, he's just walking her around speaking Spanish to people, getting them like, drinks and things like that. So it's fine. And then they find these, they're called big ass ants. I guess they're edible ants. But this I think this is Carlos's first moment where he realizes that Susan kind of has some walls up because she refused to try these.
No. Just a bit. Come on. No. Come on. No, that's not just no. That's it. No.
And I'm not saying that I would try them, but I do think it's kind of cool to have new experiences on a first date, and she just was not open to that. Like I'm thinking of Stanika on her first date with French Montana, and she was open to a lot of things.
I'm with Susan. I would not have did it.
No, me neither.
No, that's not just no. That's it. No.
There's no way. And I wouldn't have did what Stanika did either.
That's it. No.
It's crazy. It's like they're on Fear Factor or something. Why can't the new thing that they try be something that's a little bit, just a little like less extreme?
Less extreme. It's true. I don't know. I think in America we have like a higher gross out factor about food than other countries do.
We do.
Yeah.
We don't like to see how our food is made. We just like to eat.
True. And we definitely don't like ants and heads and those kinds of items. But anyways, yeah, I'm with Susan. I am. But I think from Carlos's perspective, he seems disappointed.
Come on. Come on.
Yeah. By the way, Susan was like really swearing like a sailor on this date. I've never heard her say that many swear words on a date, but she was just like, F this, look at that, holy crap. Like, it was just crazy.
I think it was a combination of her being out with a younger man that looked like a pirate and the fact that she was probably just so done with Juan.
Oh, and Carlos gives his first impression. It seems like at first he likes Susan. He says that she is smart and that she's beautiful and probably has really something to offer. And then they cut to them walking again. And he comes across, it seems like some kind of stage or like a venue where people are just publicly performing things like that. And he hands her his GoPro that he brought on the date to record him doing like a dance that he's learned recently, which he was good at. It looked fun. And Susan seemed proud in that moment. She's like, "That's my date." Like she said that like a whole bunch of times. So I thought that that was cute. But then it cuts to a confessional of her, and she says something like that's an immature kind of move. Like if I was really serious and focused on this date, I wouldn't be like, "Take my GoPro, I'm gonna go ice skating." She said ice skating. This man did not go ice skating, but I get what you're saying, Susan.
I couldn't help but think though, like when Carlos gets this footage, it's just gonna have Susan sitting there screaming, "That's my date!" And he's not even gonna see this woman again, and she's just screaming on this video. So I was like, yeah, it's a little immature too, Susan.
You're right. You're so right. Right now, Susan is not as impressed with Carlos as Carlos is with Susan, so we'll see how that date plays out. But then we're back on the date from hell with Stanika. It brings us right back from where we ended off last episode, and he is arguing with his mom in the streets. Stanika's date. What is his name again?
Salah.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Full on argument with his mom in the streets, telling her like basically that she shouldn't have come, which I don't disagree with him, but yeah, it was awkward.
Stanika was sitting there looking shook the whole time, looking at Nina and a translator, like, "Get me out of here."
I know. And then he comes back and sits down, looks at the translator, and he's like, ask her where her smile went. It's like, what's she just gonna sit there smiling while you were yelling at your mother in the streets and your brother just came in all straight face asking all these weird questions? Didn't he just get done asking her if it was her fault that people lie and cheat? I would not be smiling.
She's like, "Nina put me on this date. I'm gonna see it through."
Yeah, she has a lot of trust in Nina right now, so it's a good thing. Nina steered her in the right direction with French Montana, so she's open. She's open to seeing what's going on. So she smiles right back at him, this kind of nervous, forced smile. And I think the date at the restaurant kind of wraps up there. He asks at this point if he can take her out on his moped, his motorcycle, and she actually agreed, which I was shocked about. And it seems like Nina was shocked too, because it cuts to her in a confessional, and she kind of says that she's nervous, but she's like going to be nearby and basically on call and ready to come over if
I was
needed.
like, well, that sounds great.
Right. And then Nina takes her gas station flowers again. Nina's like the professional flower holder taker over, but I just really hope that Nina has some kind of GPS tracker on Stanika, because like she needs to be able to get there fast based on how this day is going.
I thought you were gonna say vase.
Why though?
For the flowers.
Oh, some kind of vase for the flowers. I mean, I hope that too. She says a little prayer before she gets on the bike. I just love her. But we did learn that she's comfortable on this bike, I guess more than I would be. Has a lot of motorcycles, so she gives us that little tidbit of information. Because I wouldn't even have got on the back of that thing with somebody I trusted, let alone this man.
Yeah. So then after Sneaka rides off in the distance with this man, we cut to Natalie, and she meets up with Juan to talk about her date and to play pool with him. So she doesn't want to see him again, and Juan is confused by that for some reason. I mean, there was a language barrier to begin with, so I'm not really that shocked.
Yeah. It wasn't really a great date. I mean,
It wasn't.
they were attracted to each other physically, but they didn't really find anything much to talk about. It was mostly quiet and sounded pretty awkward. So she says that they went to the pool and it was kind of a sexy moment. So he took his shirt off, but that ultimately nothing happened. And Juan asks why. He's like, "You're young. This is what you're supposed to be doing."
Yeah. That's where I was like, Juan, she's doesn't have to like do anything with this guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he asked her to like, is it you that doesn't want to do anything, or do you think it's like your mom? And as soon as he asks her that, I don't think she really answers that question, but she just totally shuts down almost. She goes to play her little turn in the pool game and the billiards game, and she just like gives this minimal effort and rolls her eyes. And he goes, "Are you upset?" She goes, "No."
And then he's like, well, you changed.
She's like, "No, I didn't."
And he's like, yes, you did. You changed. And then she's like, I'm focused on the game. He's like, all of a sudden.
I know. He called her out too. I think then he took her to go sit down. He's like, "Okay, we're not gonna have this weird I'm focused on the game thing." So he tries to level with her at that point. He kind of opens up about himself and says that he is the father of two daughters, that his oldest daughter is 27, and that he used to be a strict parent too until he realized that it's really not his life to live and you have to give your kids their freedom to live their lives. So, but he just talks about, I think, a different style of parenting because she's so engulfed in Sri Lankan culture, which is her culture. But I think it's good for her to just see that other parents don't focus so much on that.
Right.
I think that's about it with Natalie there. And then we get back over to Mark Chad on his date with Sukana. Is that how you say it?
Sukanya.
Sukanya.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Mark's on his date with Sukanya and they're taking shots of whiskey at this little, what is that place?
It's like a hut in the desert. It's
Yeah.
like a place that seems like people stop to get tea and drinks and
Shots.
yeah. She said it's not whiskey though. He called it Moroccan whiskey. He said
Oh,
that.
was that why I keep thinking it's whiskey?
Well, the guy who poured it, he passed it to Mark Chad and he was like, "Moroccan whiskey." And so Mark got excited and he was like, "Oh, whiskey." But then his date said, "No, it's just tea." He was like, "But he said whiskey." So I don't know. I don't know if there's alcohol in it or not.
So they kind of get to talking, and Sukanya really likes Mark, and she doesn't like that men have to pay for everything, so they're like on the same page with that.
They are. They're basically made for each other as far as their views go about life. And she shares with him too that she has already like a model from her parents of what it looks like to have like a male and a female both working and contributing to the household. So it's not even just something that she wants to do for herself that's different from her culture. In her culture and her family, that's normal. So I think it's very much what Mark Chad is looking for.
Yeah, I feel like if this girl was even 10 years older, she'd have a better
Definitely.
shot
Yeah.
with him. I think it's just the fact that she is 24.
When they actually do figure out at this point in the date how old they both are, I think Mark knew that she was 24, but she had no idea how old Mark was. So Mark tells her that he's 44, and she's surprised, but it seems like she's just surprised that he doesn't look 44.
When they were talking about that, my favorite thing was when they were talking about age, and he about, oh well, together we'd be 50, and she's like, oh yeah, sometimes I feel like that. Sometimes I wake up and I feel like I'm gonna die.
Well, we're both almost 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Some days I just wake up and I feel like I'm gonna die.
He just has a straight face to that too. He's like, yeah.
as he's 6 years from 50.
I don't know. They seemed like they worked for each other. Mark is kind of immature. She at least has the same vision of life and how she wants to do life. So, yeah, they say that they feel the same age even when she wants to die.
I feel like I'm gonna die.
Go back to Susan, who's out with Carlos still, and they talk about his job and what he does. And he says that he was going into some sort of tech field job, and he switched to the entertainment industry because he wanted to be able to travel. He was talking mainly about music, but then he mentions to her that he's an actor, and she completely switched off.
Yeah, that's going to be a no for Susan. She says she avoids those types like the plague.
Yeah.
And basically shuts down like from there on out afterwards.
Yeah.
Carlos tries to ask about her past relationships and she shuts that down really quick. She says, I've never heard this phrase before, but it made me laugh. She says, let's not kick that tree or something. I'm like,
Yeah.
I think that that's probably a fitting phrase for the way that she describes how awful the relationship was, but I never heard it before, so it made me laugh.
Yeah, and Carlos thinks he can break down her walls by asking about her ex and all these things, but Susan keeps shutting it down. And he says if she's been in a toxic relationship, her behavior could be toxic, which can be difficult to deal with.
He's spitting facts.
But Susan says in her confessional that she has lost faith in Juan and thinks that he isn't listening to her. So you can tell right at the moment he mentioned that he wanted to be an actor and then asked her about her past. That was it.
Yeah, and she said, I was worried Juan would go young, handsome, and immature, and my guess was spot on. Like, Susan really thinks she has Juan figured out, and not in a good way. She's really upset with him. Again, she wants answers not just about Carlos, but she wants answers about Miguel again, too. She wants to know why either of these men were sufficient.
After that, we get to Stanika, who is on the bike with Salah, and they're going back to her hotel that she's at. She's confused and conflicted about how he treated his mom, and they're sitting outside with this. It looks like a seafood dinner, and they start using Google Translate because the translator is not with them.
As soon as you said the seafood dinner.
Yeah, because we'll get to it.
I'm not gonna be able to make it. I can't.
I have to bring that up because later I have to talk about what she said. So then they start using this Google Translator on their date. And as they are using the Google Translator, when they start, he'll ask her a question with the translator and she would say it back out loud. And then he'd be like, translate, translate.
I know. So rude too. Like he was not nice about it. He would cut her off. And I think eventually the production came in and kind of said like we want her to talk and she can translate at the same time because he started talking as well when he was translating. But she did it again before she sent the translation to him. And he was like, effort, please, for me. And I'm like, you're a dick. You just no.
Yeah, because I was confused because she could have been doing talk to text as well, which is what I think she was doing. So that was weird. But yeah, he got kind of offended by that. And Sneeka says in her confessional they think that he's being rude. And then to him, she brings up the mom situation because he asks what she values and she talks about family. And then he asks her what she thinks about family. And she says, oh, good question. Let's bring up your mom.
Ready.
She was ready. Yeah. And he says that family is a red line that just can't be crossed with him. And that it has nothing to do with his relationships, which I agree and disagree. Like, for one, there's an incident that happened in front of this girl, so she's going to have some questions and maybe have some opinions about that. And also, moving forward, your family's going to be involved in your relationship because eventually your relationship becomes part of your family. So
Right.
eventually you're going to have to talk about it. So I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah.
Maybe
I don't
he's
know how you could say a family is a red line that can't be crossed if you're talking to someone and dating them and thinking about marriage in any way. Marriage is, yes, between a man and a woman who love each other, but it really is a joining of the family.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, maybe if he said something like, I don't want to talk about that much on a first date, that'd be a lot better than it's a line that can never be crossed.
He speaks so strangely, and his face is so, it's just cold. He never has any warm features that come across, yet he wants Tanika to smile at him all the time. It's just bizarre. Mhm.
So Sneaka asked him if he's got anger issues because he didn't want to answer that question. And then he says he's confused by her and why she would ask him that because she doesn't really know him and he's like trying to get to know her, which I think that's a little bit valid. But
I actually kind of felt bad for him when he said that. Like, a part of me was like, okay, maybe he's really misunderstood. Like, his mom made him mad and he couldn't help, but do what he did, and he's trying to make up for it, but she's kind of holding him to this and he doesn't want to talk about it. But ultimately, it's just not how you deal with it. I felt like he was shutting her down a lot in that whole date, not only at that time, but for the translator stuff. And when she opened up a little bit about why she wasn't dating and asked her weird questions about that. So I don't know. I did feel bad for him just for a moment when he was like, oh, but you don't even know me. And it's like, I've learned 3 things that have made me not want to know you more.
yeah, and first impressions really do matter. Yeah, Sanika at that point just lets him have it. She says this is not a match, that there's no chemistry, that she can't draw it, she can't make it.
There's no chemistry here. I can't make it. I can't draw it. I can't make the shrimp have chemistry. Hell, the damn seafood don't even like. It ain't even liking each other.
The food don't even want to be near each other. The damn shrimp in the bowl.
She said these shrimp can't have chemistry, none of this stuff. The seafood's not liking each other.
He's standing there looking at her all blank because he doesn't know what she's saying. I don't know if she translated all that to him. I know she translated quite a bit of it, like there's no chemistry.
I don't think he got the seafood part. He said the damn seafood not liking each other. Oh my gosh, yeah. So then we get another opportunity to see Stanika sing another line because she is a nervous singer. That is a fact at this point. So in her confessional, she kind of reiterates like, there's no chemistry here. There's nothing that we can, make up here. And she just says, nothing. So the date ends with her just throws a towel over her face.
She was done. Just done.
Completely done. And so is this episode, completely done.
Completely done.
So we do have a little sneak peek for next time. We have a new person joining us. So we get to meet who we call real Chad now. So we have fake Chad, which is Mark, moving forward, and now we have real Chad. And real Chad tells us that he likes to mow his lawn. He tells us that he has 3 failed engagements, and he's going to be working with Juan in Colombia. And then we have a sneak peek of Sanika looking pretty mad at Nina about this date. I think she says something like, I don't want any more of your dates to Nina. So we'll see how that goes over. Then we have Susan and Juan doing some more paperwork to make sure that all the checks are right. And we have Harold meeting Michaela for the first time, and it looks like it's going good. And he offers to get a meal prepared at his hotel after their date. So we will see what she says about that.
All right. Well, we'll catch you next time, chit chatters.
Bye.
Bye.